Super Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back is absolutely one of the most difficult games on the Super Nintendo, but it's also one of the best. You'll run and gun your way through 20 action-packed stages, and you'll occasionally take control of vehicles as you navigate an asteroid field or battle Imperial walkers. The Empire Strikes Back movie came out in 1980, and while the original Star Wars was a surprise hit, Empire was a highly anticipated sequel and is often considered the best Star Wars movie ever made. The surprise reveal that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father is quite possibly the most famous scene in all of cinematic history, so of course this movie had toys, marketing tie-ins, and a video game for the Atari 2600. Considering this is on the Atari, it looks pretty good. But there was a lot more to this movie than just fighting AT-ATs on Hoth. What about Jedi training with Yoda? Or the epic confrontation with Vader on Cloud City? For that, gamers were just going to have to wait 13 years. After the success of the first Super Star Wars in 1992, LucasArts and Sculptured Software teamed up again to make the sequel. They were able to reuse a lot of the assets from the original game, and cartridge technology had improved, so this time they were able to make a game that was 50% bigger. But they still ended up having to cut a second Asteroid Field stage from the game due to running out of space. Kalani Streicher from LucasArts was the lead designer and in charge of turning the story from the movie into a playable game. You may know him as the producer of Defenders of Dynatron City for the NES, or for his work on the X-Wing PC games. Streicher was assisted by artists Harrison Fong and John Knowles, also from LucasArts. Fong drew the backgrounds, while Knowles created animations for the characters. Peter Ward from Sculptured Software was once again the lead programmer. He would go on to work on the console ports of Mortal Kombat 3, as well as Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six for the Nintendo 64. I reached out to Peter Ward, and he told me the most memorable part of his experience with the Super Star Wars trilogy was having the opportunity to visit George Lucas's famous Skywalker Ranch during the game's production. The developers listened to player feedback from the first Super Star Wars game and made some major improvements to the gameplay. Now you can move around when shooting, while in the first game you'd be stuck in one spot when firing a weapon. You can also double jump by pressing the jump button again in mid-air, which really helps with the platforming elements. They even added a password feature to save your game, and you'll be very happy to have it in a game as big as this one. Super Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back was a big hit when it released in North America in June of 1993, and it only took a few more months before it debuted in Japan and then Europe. Critics praised the game for its graphics, movie-accurate soundtrack, and voice effects.
Impressive.
In modern times, players still appreciate this game for its exciting boss battles and fun force power action. When IGN created their list of the top 100 Super Nintendo games of all time, they ranked Empire Strikes Back at number 91. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges retro games are notorious for. You'd think that because this game has a password system and gives Luke a whole arsenal of force powers to wield, that it would be easier than the first game in the series, but the truth is that it's significantly harder. You'll need every advantage to get through this game, and even setting the difficulty to easy might not be enough. If you can survive to the end, the final fight with Vader is so tough, you may be tempted to join the dark side. But what if I told you where to find tons of hidden power-ups so you'll never be stuck with a weak blaster? What if I told you an easy way to get 99 lives at the beginning of the game without using a cheat code? And what if I told you how to defeat every boss? Even Darth Vader himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. Let's get started. Alright, The Empire Strikes Back. This game has a lot of cheat codes, but I'm going to get into those at the end of the video so that we can get right into the game. At the beginning here, you can go to the option menu where you can change the difficulty. If you are struggling in this game, don't feel bad about switching it to easy. And you also have Jedi mode available for some replay value after you can beat it on the default difficulty, but we're going to be playing on Brave for the purpose of the video. As we watch the iconic Star Wars opening text crawl, or at least the Super Nintendo rendition of it, it looks pretty good to be honest. I put up what the different items are on the left side of the screen. The ones that you want to pay particular attention to are the blaster power-ups. Luke starts out with a very weak blaster. Later on in the game we'll get to play as Han Solo or Chewbacca, and they start with the level 2 blaster, which is called Fire, but Luke starts with a very weak laser blaster, and you're going to want to get him powered up as soon as you can. If you lose a life and die in this game, you lose your blaster power-ups, so it's very important to know where they are so that if you do die, you'll be able to recover as quickly as possible. Whenever we're playing as Luke, we'll have access to his lightsaber, so if your blaster is weak, press the A button to fire up that lightsaber. You'll need to do it whenever he's not moving around though. The lightsaber is a lot more powerful in this game, although the highest level of your blaster, the plasma cannon, is significantly more damaging than the lightsaber, but that doesn't mean that you always want to use plasma whenever you have that gun available. There's a lot of good reasons to stay with the lightsaber, as we'll see whenever we start up the game here. As the last bit of text floats off into the sky, we pan down over a sea of stars, and this part's a little bit different than it is in the movie. We see this Mode 7 effect of a Star Destroyer, and this is a Victory class Star Destroyer. It's not one of the larger Imperial class ones that you normally see in the movies. And we're launching probe droids to find the rebellion. It appears that one of them has landed on Hoth, so Luke Skywalker will need to get to his trusty Tauntaun, and that's what we're going to be doing here in Stage 1. We start the game with a lightsaber equipped, but you can press the A button to switch over to the blaster. The blaster that we have right now is kinda weak, but it is good for taking out the flying Mynock enemies when they're out of reach. If we switch back to the lightsaber, we can see that its true power comes whenever you do a double jump. So if you jump and then press the jump button again when you're in midair, Luke will not only jump higher, but he'll do a flip move, which sort of turns him into a buzzsaw whenever you have the lightsaber on. This is going to be one of our most useful techniques. If you shoot to the upper left when you're on these ledges, you'll be able to find some hidden items. On the first ledge you'll find a heart, but on the second one we can find a blaster power-up, which will switch us over to the Flame Blaster. It's a little bit more powerful than that laser gun we had to start with. Once you get Luke to the Tauntaun, that's the end of Stage 1, and then we see this cutscene. It seems that a meteorite hit the ground near here, but we know better. That's not a meteorite at all. It's an Imperial probe droid. So at the start of Stage 2, we're riding the Tauntaun. You can use your lightsaber or your blaster while you're riding the Tauntaun, and there are some secrets here at the beginning of the stage, but we want to just hurry on ahead because I'm going to show you a trick to get 99 lives. Whenever you get to this spot right here, you can dismount from your Tauntaun by pressing down and B, and if you drop down in here, there's a bunch of hidden ledges that you can stand on, and on each ledge there's a power-up. Of the power-ups that you find down here, there's 4 1-ups. So if you grab your 4 1-ups and then die in the spikes at the bottom, you'll net 3 extra lives, and you'll see that when we run back to that same spot, all of those power-ups will have respawned. The only ones that really matter are the extra lives. It's very difficult to climb out of this pit without dying, so you mostly want to stock up on lives and then try to avoid falling down here once you have enough. You don't always need a lot of extra lives in this game. Sometimes it's good to run out of lives because that's how you get your password, but later on in the game there's going to be some longer stages that we'll need to complete, and those stages are going to have 1, maybe even 2 checkpoints, and whenever you're dealing with checkpoints, you're going to be happy that you had a lot of extra lives. Now that we're done collecting lives, we want to try to power up our blaster here at the beginning of stage 2, and we can do that by killing exactly 20 Hoth hogs. So count how many Hoth hogs that you kill, because there's a trick you can do after you kill 19 of them. Whenever you kill the 20th one, the game knows to give you the blaster power up, but if you can kill number 20 and number 21 at the exact same time, well, then the game will spawn 2 blaster power-ups, and you can see that right here. So instead of just getting the fire blaster, we can skip right over that one and start this round with the Seeker, which is a lot more useful. Your Tauntaun has a much bigger health bar than Luke does, but you need to be careful to avoid those big ice crystals that pop out of the ground. Those can deal you quite a bit of damage. If you want to collect that heart that's hidden in the lower parts here, you need to dismount from the Tauntaun. So press down and B to dismount. And then when you're standing above where the heart is, you can press down and B to fall through the platform. So some platforms in this game you can drop through by pressing down and B at the same time. It won't work on everything, but it does work in a number of places, like right here. We'll take out this Hoth hog, and if you go down below, there's another blaster power-up that you can find inside of a frozen ice plant. We now only need 1 more blaster power-up to reach the maximum level, but this rapid ion gun is pretty good. It can bounce off of some surfaces, and the reflected bullets can still deal damage to enemies, so this one's pretty decent. There's a few hidden hearts above that plant, so make sure to pick those up if you need them. And down here we need to do a bit of platforming. Watch out for the ice crystals that form in the ground. There's kind of a blue circle where they're going to pop up, so look for that and avoid it. We had to dismount from the Tauntaun to get it, but now we have the final blaster power-up, and we have the Plasma Blaster. The Plasma Blaster has a very large hitbox and does a ton of damage, so this is going to be a very effective way to deal with the enemies. If we head down here, we can find another hidden heart inside that ice plant, and you'll notice that there's some probe droids that are popping up here. If you need to power up your blaster another level, you can try to farm those probe droids. Eventually they'll drop one for you. Inside this cave, we find the 3rd stage on Hoth, and this one's a little bit longer than the previous 2. As we head over here to the right, we're going to find a wind tunnel, so if you just keep jumping in this area, the wind will carry you up, and it doesn't look like there's anything up here, but if you shoot around, you'll find a heart on the left side and a blaster on the right. And that heart's not the only one over here on the left. If you need more hearts, you can find up to 4 over there. Once you're all filled up with health and have that blaster power up, now if you already have the Plasma Blaster, you don't need to go up there and get more blaster power ups, but it's good to know where they are in case you die and you need to power your blaster back up to full power. Carefully jump across the platforms, avoiding the instant death spikes below. Over here we'll find another one of those wind tunnels. Up here there's a Wampa enemy. The Wampas can freeze you, but being frozen's not that big of a deal. Just rapidly tap left and right and that will thaw you out. On this side we'll be able to find an extra life as well as a few hearts. And oh, we found a thermal detonator. If you ever find a thermal detonator, you have to use it pretty quickly. You can only hold it for a few seconds, but if you press the X button, that'll blow up everything on the screen. Down here, we'll find a blaster power-up, so you can grab that. It's okay to go into the water as long as one of those electric eels isn't electrifying it. So as long as you take control of those eels, you'll be fine in the water. Make your way to the right, shooting any Wampas that pop up in your path. If you're having trouble with the smaller enemies in this area, like the bats or the electric eels, sometimes the lightsaber's better for fighting those, so you may want to switch over to that and do your double jump spin attack to clear any of those that get in your way. There's a tough jump over here coming up, so head over to the right, watch out for the icicles that pop out of the ground, and this is it right there. That jump is tricky, but if you fall down below into the water, it's not that big of a deal. Make sure that you take out the electric eel, and then you can do a double jump right from there to get back onto this platform. So if you miss the first time and you're down in the water, that's a good way to get back out. Up here, we're going to head over to the right. We have the lightsaber on now, so it's making these bats much less of a problem. You want to try to avoid touching the spikes on the ceiling though. Over here we'll find a health sword, but that's not the only thing at the top of this wind tunnel. If we head over here to the right, not only will we find a heart, but we'll find another blaster power-up, which could be very helpful if we died at any time in this cave, especially since we're getting close to the boss. Continue heading over here to the right. Watch out for the Wampas that are in your way. We got a health sword from that one, so that was pretty good. And this is where the boss is. This is the giant Wampa. Now there's a safe spot right here, and it's safe in that it doesn't get hit by the ice breath, but it can get hit by the hand attack. The hand attacks alternate, so the boss does frost breath, and then it does hand from the left, then hand from the right. So as long as you switch sides whenever the frost breath comes out, you'll never get hit by the hand because you know where it's coming from. If you don't have the plasma gun, you can use the lightsaber. The lightsaber is very good at hitting the boss as you're jumping across from side to side, so you'll hit it incidentally by just doing what you need to do to avoid the hands. In any case, as long as you keep switching sides, you should have no problem defeating the giant Wampa. In stage 4, we've reached the other side of the cave, and it seems that our Tauntaun has found another way around. Well, maybe we should have went that way instead. Then we wouldn't have had to fight that monster. Well, it's okay. The Tauntaun is pretty good for crossing over these platforms, but don't forget that you can press the L button to look down below. That'll make it a little bit easier so that you don't have to guess where you're jumping to. Over here you can find a heart, but you'll need to dismount from your Tauntaun to get it, and then press down and B to go through the platform. You'll want to try to keep your Tauntaun alive through this. That'll make this one easier, but this is a pretty short stage. It shouldn't be too hard to get over to this cave. There may not be a giant Wampa at the end of stage 5, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Make sure to watch out for the small Wampa that's hiding right behind that Empire Strikes Back logo that you see whenever the stage loads up. From here we want to head over to the right. If you kill this ice plant below, it always spawns a shield item, so make sure to grab that. It'll help you get through this next small section. Up here, if you take the wind tunnel, you'll be able to find a few hearts up in the sky, and a bit higher above is a 1-up. One thing that can be hard to avoid in this stage are the large snowflakes that just fly through the air. They only deal you a tiny smidge of damage, but sometimes they can get in the way whenever you're platforming. Down here in the water, you can find a blaster power-up if you need it, and then we're going to head over to the right. Remember as you cross over the water that you only take damage in there if it's electrified, and there's a 2-tiered wind tunnel up here. There's a few hearts up on the top tier that you can grab to refill your health, and down on the bottom tier you'll be able to find a health sword. There is another heart here, I'm sure of it. There it is. And over here, that's where the health sword is, so that will increase your maximum health, but only for this stage. When you see this rock formation in the water, if you shoot above it, you can find a 1-up and a blaster power-up. so it seems like kind of an unlikely place to be hiding some stuff, but there are hidden things in strange places in this game. We're going to switch over to the lightsaber. I think it's better for this climbing part of the stage. So take care of those ice plants, use your double jumps so that you don't get hit by bats. And right here, there's another wind tunnel, so just keep jumping here until the wind tunnel picks you up. You want to do double jumps if you're down here on the lower tier, or you might not catch the wind. I promise it will work. There it is. And up here, we'll be able to grab a shields, and there's also a heart that you'll be able to find to refill your health. It would have been better if I got the heart followed by the shields, but the shields don't really last for that long anyway, so just head over here to the right. We're getting close to the end of this cave, but there are a few more wind tunnels to explore, so just keep making your way to the right, and we're going to have to climb up a bit here. If you're having trouble with the bats, switch to the lightsaber. Yep, that'll make these guys a little bit easier to clear. And up here is the first of those wind tunnels. There's a 1-up in this one, which is pretty nice, and also a heart. So if you need some health, make sure to grab that and also get the 1-up. We can take out this Hoth hog with our lightsaber and also clear the bats as well. And try to stay on this upper tier. There's going to be another wind tunnel over here, and this one's going to have a blaster power up in it if you need it. If you don't need the blaster power up, you could go down to the bottom tier and just make your way to the right. But if you do want it, here it is over here on the right side. From here, it's just a lot more of the same. It almost feels like the developers just kind of cut and pasted the first part of this stage onto the end, because it seems very repetitive in here. So just keep cutting through the enemies with your lightsaber. If you see Hoth hogs, turn those suckers into Hoth ham. Delicious Hoth ham. Up here, there's another wind tunnel. This one just has a health sword or two up at the top of it, so decide if that's worth your time. At the end of each stage, for whatever health you have left over, you will get points. And whenever you reach 50,000 points, you get an extra life, so the points aren't completely meaningless in this game, and neither is how much health you have. But I mean, health swords only give you a little bit more health. Over in this lower right corner, you can find a big heart, and then we need to double back up here to the top, where we're going to find a wind tunnel that'll actually get us out of here. It has a big flashing red arrow in front of it. On the upper left side here, you can find some more hearts and a health sword, so grab those if you need them. And if you hurry over here on the left, you can find some invisible platforms. You need to get up on those quickly though if you want to get the 2 extra lives. Those extra lives will definitely disappear if you wait too long. So if you head over there and there's no extra lives, well, that's what happened. Down here we can find a big heart in its pretty normal hiding spot. Take out a few more Hoth hogs and carefully jump over that gap. Then once you're on this platform, you're home free. You can collect as many of these coins if you want, they're just worth points. And that's the end of Stage 5. For the beginning of the game, that's a tough one. Stage 6 starts out with a small mistake from the developers. We're seen here emerging from a cave, but we already came out of the cave at the end of Stage 5, and then we rode down the side of that mountain and collected all those coins. We probably should have started at the bottom of that mountain. Over here you can grab a blaster power-up if you need it, and then make your way over to the right. If you need a blaster power-up, you can get one by farming the probe droid enemies that appear over here, and a good place to farm them is to hide underneath this platform, so you can drop through it by pressing down and B. And then you're looking for these meteors that come crashing into the background. The probe droids spawn from those little meteors that crash in. So whenever you see them coming, wait for the probe droid to spawn, take it out with your lightsaber, and this seems to be one of the safer spots that you can do this in, but if you do get hit by an enemy and knocked off the edge here, that could be instant death. You can see though that they will give you the blaster power up if you do kill enough of them. From here, we're just going to head over to the right. It is probably important to power up your blaster here because the blaster is going to be the easier way to deal with the mini boss that we're about to fight. and this is going to be a larger probe droid. So as you cross over the top of this hill, get ready to fight this boss, but you can see it doesn't have a ton of health. All you need to do is blast the legs off of this thing, then get close to it and just keep on shooting until it goes down. But that was just a mini boss. The real boss is coming up next. Make sure that you're careful to jump across this gap here. Do a double jump to make sure that you clear it. That's instant death below. And then we'll take another ride down the side of this mountain. You do have some control over this. You can jump so that you can grab some of those ones in the air, but you won't be able to completely stop it. Down here, we'll be able to grab a heart in this lower corner, and then you'll be able to get out of the water and head across to the right. There are several more hearts hidden here in the water, so be on the lookout for them if you need more health. We're about to fight another boss. This time it's going to be an even larger probe droid. So down here you can find yet another heart, right there. And then make your way to the right. Here's where the boss is. I do want to point out that if you hold down and Y with the lightsaber, you can reflect the boss's projectiles back at it. But this boss does not expect you to go down into the water. In fact, it goes down there to hide after it attacks. But you can stay in the water no problem. As long as you make sure to hit jump before you fall off the very bottom of the screen, you won't take any damage for being down in there. And whenever the probe droid comes down to hide, you can get right up next to it and just blast it to smithereens. It does have two forms, so don't be surprised by the second form, but you should have no problem defeating that boss. We may have destroyed that probe droid, but the Imperials know we're here and they've sent their walkers. All available pilots must get to their snow speeders, so this next stage takes place inside of Echo Base. We start off on our Tauntaun, but sadly we'll immediately abandon it. And I thought they smelled bad on the outside. This is the first stage that takes place in the Rebel base, and we will be coming back here later in the game, but we'll be controlling Han Solo at that time. As Luke, we can deflect these spider droids' fireballs right back into their face. So just hold down and Y when you have the lightsaber equipped, and those spider droids will kill themselves. Once you clear out 2 spider droids, more of them will spawn in a few seconds, but you'll have a bit of time to advance forward. If you press down and right plus the jump button, Luke will slide forward very quickly, and that will help you avoid the girders that fall from the ceiling, as well as the fire turrets that come from below. There's always a blaster power-up in this box right here, so you can hit it open with your lightsaber or shoot it with your gun, and then advance forward, remembering to slide underneath those girders and take out any spider bots that get in your way. The slide move is very helpful in this stage, but don't forget that you can do it, because sometimes later in the game, you may slide by accident whenever you're crouching and trying to shoot at something, and then you'll just go flying off the side of a platform, and you could end up in a bad spot. Once we get over here, we're going to jump onto this speeder bike, and we're going to have a side-scrolling shooter stage for a moment. This is easier than the one we'll have to play later. Just keep moving up and down and rapidly firing your gun, and as long as you had a decent amount of health before you got here, you shouldn't have any problem getting through this short corridor. Whenever we get to the end here, we're going to find our snow speeder, and then we're going to be going into one of those Mode 7 vehicle segments. Something that you need to be aware of: if you die in a Mode 7 vehicle segment, you will not get your password. So if you're on your last continue, you may want to try to die in this stage so that you can enter a password and come back with full continues. Because the last thing you want to do is lose your last continue and not get a password, so you won't be able to pick up where you left off. You actually won't get a password if you die in any of the Mode 7 vehicle segments, including the Asteroid Field and the Cloud City one. So keep that in mind. You'll want to make sure that you have a bunch of lives and continues before you get to one of these. So as we take control of our snow speeder, we're free to move around in the 3D space. And something that you'll notice is that the ground is not completely level, and it can be hard to avoid, but if you touch down on the ground too hard, you will take a little bit of damage, so try to avoid that, but it's not always possible. At first, it's just the probe droids, but after you destroy 5 of them, the bikers will start to show up, and we'll need to remove 10 bikers as well as the 10 probe droids. If you clear all 10 probe droids, more of them will continue to spawn, so once the bikers start to show up, you may want to focus on taking out the bikers, because it won't be hard to get rid of the remaining probe droids. If probe droids get into your sights though, of course blow them up. Any enemy that you destroy will drop a heart, so make sure to get those. Those will keep you alive as you move forward here. At this point, we only have bikers left, but you can see that the probe droids are still coming, so just because we killed enough probe droids doesn't mean that we're done with them. When we get rid of the last bikers though, the probe droids will stop showing up, but the bikers are going to continue to spawn throughout the rest of the stage. They're kind of obnoxious. So we need to get rid of 3 more bikers. Whenever you see them, try to chase them down and shoot them. Sometimes it's good to take out extra probe droids. They're just easy to kill and they're worth big hearts, so that'll keep your health high. 2 more. If you're playing on different difficulties, you may have different numbers of enemies that you need to kill. So if you're on Jedi mode, you might have to take out more of these guys. And that is the last one. So now we have to get rid of 5 AT-ST walkers, and those are the smaller all-terrain scout transports, or more casually known as the chicken walkers. The chicken walkers take a good bit of damage to kill, so you'll want to shoot them as much as you can, and then double back to shoot them again. Whenever they explode, they leave a lot of hearts though, so make sure to grab those to keep your health high. You can see that we're also going to have to destroy 5 AT-AT walkers, but they won't show up until we get rid of 5 AT-STs, and then the AT-STs will continue to spawn as we have to fight the bigger ones. So keep trying to shoot these guys, deal a bunch of damage, and then turn back around and finish them off, and you can see that the bikers are still attacking us, although we don't have to clear any bikers at this point to move forward. So focus your attacks on the AT-STs, just try to avoid the bikers, they're more of a nuisance than anything. So 1 more. Once we take out the last AT-ST, we're going to have to remove 5 AT-AT walkers, and these ones are a bit tougher. It's possible to kill them with just your guns, but you'll probably sustain a ton of damage doing that, so I recommend using the tow cable method. Fly near a walker and then press L or R to launch your tow cable, and you're going to continue to make a circle around the walker. You don't want the circle to be too tight or you'll crash into the walker and you'll lose your connection to the cable and you'll have to fire it again. But if you're too wide, you can lose your connection to the cable as well, so you need to find a nice middle ground there. It's also good to try to pick out AT-ATs that are on more level ground, because bouncing off of the ground is another thing that can make you lose your tow cable. You'll also launch it to whichever side you push the button for, so if you press the L button, you're going to launch a tow cable to the left, and if you press the R button, you're going to launch a tow cable to the right. Whenever an AT-AT blows up, it leaves behind a lot of hearts. There's a good chance you'll take a lot of damage whenever you're fighting these things, especially from the stupid bikers and AT-ST walkers that are still around. So you want to make sure that you grab those hearts and keep your health at a high level. That seems obvious, but if you're flying away from an exploding walker, you might not notice the hearts, so make sure that you turn around and head back towards it so that you can collect them. We only need to get rid of 2 more walkers now. So we're going to launch our tow cable again. You need to wrap it up between 4 and 5 times. I think it's closer to 5 times, but it's not super precise. It's hard to tell exactly how many revolutions you've gone around these walkers. Just keep going until you see them collapse. This could take a bit of practice. It might look easy when I'm doing it, but finding that good middle ground and getting a nice circle around the AT-AT walkers is harder than it looks. A lot of the time, the walker that you're attached to is off the screen, so that makes it more difficult to judge how far away you actually are from it, and it'll take a little bit of practice to get that feel. Once you get rid of the last walker, you'll see a message to fly towards the last walker, and you'll see one out in the snowfield that you'll need to head towards. It's time to actually go inside of an AT-AT walker. But before that, we have a side-scrolling shooting stage, and this one can be surprisingly difficult. Stay on the far left side of the screen and move up and down to shoot the bikers as they come towards you. Try to shoot them as soon as they appear, but that can be easier said than done. If they drop any red projectiles, shoot those too. After a while, 2 air assault troopers will attack you. You can kill them if you want to, but as soon as you kill one air assault trooper, another one will immediately spawn in its place. So what you actually need to do is just try to kill some time and avoid those guys until the second wave of bikers shows up. Now, once the second wave of bikers comes in, you want to try to shoot those and continue to avoid the air assault troopers. That will take you to the end of this flying section. Do your best to survive, but if you can get to the end, you will get a full life bar whenever you drop out of your snowspeeder. From here, you just want to keep moving to the right, and eventually you'll see the big leg of the AT-AT walker. And we have our lightsaber equipped, and we're double jumping, so we're doing that buzzsaw type attack. And you just want to keep double jumping up the leg and make your way to the door in the middle. I'm not sure why this walker isn't moving. Did it freeze up somehow? That would be a pretty bonehead move by the Imperials to bring their very expensive AT-AT walkers to a planet where they could be frozen solid. If I were Darth Vader, somebody would definitely be getting force choked for this. Inside the walker are a bunch of horizontal floors that have a door at the end, and whenever you get to the door, you'll be able to move up to the next level. When you get to the 4th level, there's a bunch of power-ups up there, so make sure that you're counting the levels and you're aware of which one that you're on. So right now we were on the 2nd, but now we're on the 3rd level, and whenever you see one of these ion cannons, if Luke just holds down and the Y button, it will just shoot a bunch of shots off and be reflected right back into its ion cannon face. If you hold your deflection long enough, that ion cannon will destroy itself, and that's the safest way to fight those. Whenever you see these guys that launch the seeker missiles, it's possible to block them too, but they won't reflect back, so you'll need to lightsaber right through that guy. Another nice deflection takes out another ion cannon, and that brings us up to the 4th floor. And here's where those hidden power-ups are. So there's a blaster, a big heart, and an extra life. So if you were counting the floors, it will be easy to remember to get the stuff on the right side of the 4th. Just keep heading over here to the left. We're going to switch to the lightsaber so that we can deflect another ion cannon. This will push you back a bit whenever you're blocking, so make sure you move forward when it stops shooting. You don't want to be pushed back so far that you end up fighting an enemy that respawned. Just a couple more floors now. Buzzsaw your way through that seeker guy. Watch out for these orb bots. You won't be able to jump or slide through the grenade throwing guys, so you'll want to take those out with your lightsaber. They're only vulnerable when they're throwing a grenade. It is possible to deflect their grenades that they throw back at them, but you need to be in kind of a perfect position for that to work. So I recommend just getting up close to those guys, lightsabering them in the face, and then moving on with your life. We got a thermal detonator, but I don't think we're going to be able to use it, because now we've emerged on top of the frozen AT-AT walker, and we're going to fight it with our lightsaber. This is a pretty easy battle. If you just stay over here on the far right side and deflect, the rapid ion cannons that are shooting from those turrets will be reflected back at the turrets that they fired from, and you're going to deflect most of the shots that come your way. there's some of those air assault troopers. They might be able to get behind you and deal a bit of damage, but they're going to have a lot of trouble. Sometimes it'll be hard to deflect enough shots onto the cannon on the far right side, so if you can't kill it, head over to this position and shoot down and to the right to finish it off. The AT-AT Walker looks intimidating, but it's actually one of the easier bosses in the game. And with that Walker boss defeated, Luke's job here on Hoth is completed, but we're not quite done here. No. Now we're going to take control of Han Solo, and we're going to need to escape the Rebel base. Unfortunately, Han Solo doesn't have a lightsaber like Luke Skywalker does, so we're going to have to deal with all the threats here in the Rebel base just using our blasters. Han does have a secondary weapon, the bombs, but they are a consumable item that you'll find in some of the boxes or randomly from enemies. We just picked up 7 right there, but they're not something that you'll reliably have all the time. Whenever you see bombs appear, make sure that you grab them quickly though, because the amount of ammo you get decreases the longer they stay on the screen. Han also has a combat roll that you can do just like Luke's slide move. You'll need to use that roll move frequently to get under the girders that fall from the sky, as well as to get past these fire turrets that pop up out of the ground, although it's much safer to just angle your gun downwards and shoot at those fire turrets to remove them. When you see the grenade throwing guys, you just want to get close to them. The grenades they throw will go over your head and you'll be able to shoot them quickly. And in this corner you can find a blaster power up as well as a hidden big heart. So pick up that stuff if you need it. If you don't, you can just skip that floor and make your way to the top. There's some more of those bombs. You can see that we only got 3 there because some of them had decreased, and I decided to throw one there so you can see what it looks like. They're pretty decent and they can be very effective against some of the bosses. So we're going to head over to this elevator, take it up 1 floor and make your way to the right. Watch out for those girders that fall. That one got me, of course. But there's some hidden stuff in some of these boxes. And then there's these spinning spikes which you can just easily combat roll underneath, so those aren't that big of a threat. There's a heart hidden in that box, so grab it, and then make your way down on this elevator. This is a bit of an optional detour. There's a health sword and a big heart over here in the corner. If you don't need the big heart, I don't really recommend coming over here. Just save your health and your time and go all the way to the bottom instead. Head over here to the right, you'll find another elevator, and if we get off to the left here, there's going to be a hidden blaster power up in this corner, as well as a shields, so that's probably worth getting. Head back to the elevator and take it up to the top and head over to the right. We're getting close to the end here, and we're going to have to fight a boss, as well as 2 mini bosses at the very end of this one. So we're going to be happy to take this opportunity to power up our blaster 1 more time if we don't have a fully powered blaster already. And we'll be able to do it over here in this corner. So if you need a better blaster, make sure to stop over there and grab it. There's also a big heart and a health sword if you need those things. So make sure to pick those up if you need them, and then we're going to head back to the right. So this is the way that you actually need to go to move forward. Just keep rolling past a lot of this stuff. You can't roll through those big guns with the seeker bullets, so don't even try. And here is the first mini boss we need to clear. There's a shields in this box, so that'll help with this one, and whenever it's destroyed, it will drop a big heart. But then we have another big hover trooper to fight over here, and we don't have a shield this time. So try to angle some shots up at it. You won't be able to move forward until you get rid of both of those. You can grab a last minute blaster power up in this box, and then it's time to fight the real boss. This is the Snowcat. The first thing you want to do against this guy is roll to the right side, and then if you have bombs, just start hurling them at this thing. You really want to take out those spinning spikes. Those are the most dangerous part of this thing, but you need to take out the tail and the cockpit as well before you'll be able to damage the boss itself. Once you've taken out all 4 of its weak points, Either keep hitting it with bombs or shoot it with your gun, and the snowcat will go down pretty quickly. If you're having trouble with that boss, you can try farming enemies in the area before it to bring a thermal detonator, and that will make it very easy to defeat. And this brings us to the second of Han's Rebel Base stages. This level is pretty similar to the previous one, and I feel like the developers could have changed the order of the stages so that we could have mixed it up a little bit more. Whenever you see those spikes, remember you need to roll underneath those, take out that grenade-throwing stormtrooper, and make your way to the right. Over here is another one of those hover droid mini-bosses. If you have the plasma gun, you'll be in good shape, but if you died in this area and have a weaker gun, make sure to destroy some of the boxes leading up to that mini-boss so that you can at least get some bombs to use. That will certainly make a difference. As you head over here to the right, you'll want to go through this stack of boxes, and watch out for that grenade-throwing guy. He got me with a grenade. I should have gotten closer to him and just waited for him to throw and shot him. Once you get to this platform, you don't need to head over to the right, just take it down to the bottom, and we will head over here where we'll find another elevator. Press up to move this elevator, and at the top, we need to go to the left, but if you want to pick up a blaster power-up or a big heart, we can head over here to the right, and we'll find those items up in the sky, so grab those if you need them. We certainly needed the big heart, and then head back to the elevator. There are a lot of elevators in this Rebel base, and the one thing that you should always remember in any of the Rebel base stages is that the goal is on the far right side, so if you're getting lost, just try to find your way to the right. If you reach a dead end, make your way back to the last elevator that you were on, and take a different path there. Either move the elevator up or down, or go to the left when you went to the right previously. Sometimes you need to go a little bit to the left before you can go to the right, but the goal is always going to be on the far right side. And that brings us to the boss, the ATST Walker, and this is an easy one. There's a hidden shields item in the upper right corner. Shoot into the air until you find it, and when you have the shields, use it to take out the gun on the side of the walker. Once the gun is gone, you can just stay here on the far right side of the screen, and the walker will just jump back and forth, and you can pick it off at your leisure. It's really that simple. With the ATST Walker defeated, it's time to evacuate Hoth. And as we leave this frozen wasteland behind, we're going to go into another Mode 7 3D vehicle segment. And once again, if you run out of lives here, you're not going to get a password. So if you were on your last life and your last continue before you got here, you may want to make sure to die in that previous stage and get your password there, and then put a password in to replenish your continues before you come into here. This is probably the most difficult vehicle segment in the game, at least in my opinion. The TIE fighters will appear on your radar at the bottom as red or green dots. A green dot is a TIE fighter that's in front of the Millennium Falcon, so you should be able to find that one and shoot it. So if you see a green dot, look around for that TIE fighter and shoot it. If you see a red dot, that TIE fighter is behind you. The best way to make the TIE fighter get in front of the Millennium Falcon is to drift into the upper left corner and then drift back down to the right. So go up and left and down and right. You can use the L and R buttons to move you left and right when you're flying here, but it's not really necessary. So once you've cleared about 10 enemies, the enemies will stop spawning for a moment, and you'll just need to try to avoid the asteroids. You can shoot the asteroids to blow them up, but you probably want to mostly just steer away from them. At this point, there's more asteroids that you have to avoid, and we still have to take out the TIE fighters, so this is where it gets really dicey. You need to try to avoid those asteroids, but you're also trying to do that move up to the left and then back down to the right technique so that you can get the red dot TIE fighters to move in front of the Millennium Falcon. Once again, after you clear 5 enemies, you'll have a short lull in the enemies, and you'll have to just avoid some asteroids. But they're going to be coming again, and this will be the last wave. Unless you're on Jedi mode. On Jedi mode, you will have to take out even more enemies. I think it's 25 on Jedi mode, so good luck with that. This can be tough. After you clear the 5th enemy, you do not immediately complete the stage, so keep that in mind too. You will have to keep flying for a bit and continue to survive, so don't just put the controller down after you kill the 5th enemy. You need to stay on your toes. There are a ton of asteroids here. So pay attention to your radar. If you see that red dot, use the move up left and then move down right technique to turn it into a green dot, and then shoot that TIE fighter. Oh, we're down to our last bit of health. If you see any arrows, move in the direction of those arrows. They'll tell you which way to go to get out of here. Can't hit any asteroids here, come on. Just end, please. This can get very frustrating. The last thing that you want is to hit an asteroid after you've cleared all the enemies, but as soon as you go to hyperspace, you're in the clear, and then in a different part of the galaxy, we're setting a new course. That's right. We're going to the Dagobah system. It's about time that we learned how to use those force powers, and that's what we're going to be doing here on Dagobah. To get force powers, we need to find them. They're items hidden in the levels. And the first one of the most important, is in the upper left corner. It's the heal force. So just slash with your lightsaber in the upper left corner and you'll find it. And whenever you see those acid plants, they take a lot of hits to kill, but they usually drop a big heart. If you drop down here and slash in the air above those mushrooms, you'll find the elevation power, which is the other most important force power in the game. If you hang out down here in the lower corner and just keep slashing at these enemies, they'll drop items and eventually they'll drop a blaster power up for you. The elevation power essentially lets us fly, which is very good, although whenever it's equipped, you'll use it automatically just by pressing up. Most of the force powers are used by pressing X. So you might want to unequip that sometimes when you're not using it. Down here in the water, you can find a hidden blaster power up, and if we head up this switchback, we'll be able to find a hidden force power up here. So those green orbs will restore your force power. Then we want to come all the way to the top here, where we're going to find another force power. This one is the mind control, so just kind of saber around in the air in this area, and you'll find some force power-ups, and over here on the left is where you'll find the mind control. Once you have the mind control, if you press select and then use your L and R buttons, you'll be able to toggle on the elevation power. And if we fly over to this platform, you can find 2 hidden force power-ups, and that'll give us plenty of force to be able to use our healing power to restore some health. You just press the X button whenever you have the heal force equipped, and that will heal you. And the more force power you have, the more you'll spend. So if you don't have very much left, you'll just do a small heal, but the amount that you actually heal is proportional to the amount of force power that is spent. Down at the bottom, you can find another hidden blaster power-up in the water. And if you use your elevation, you can find the deflection power-up above this formation of mushrooms. There are 4 force powers hidden here in Stage 1. If you don't get them all, you'll be able to find them again in Stage 3, so it's not critical, but I certainly recommend that you get heal and elevation right away. Mind control will make an enemy stop attacking you, and it might even turn and attack the other enemies. The problem with mind control is that it just drains your force power too quickly, so we won't really be using that one. We will be using deflect, but not until later in the game, so if you don't get that one until later, it's not that big of a deal. But I do recommend that you make sure that you have heal and elevation before you touch R2 at the end of the stage. That will make sure that you're ready for Stage 2 of Dagobah, and this time, we're going to need to find this Yoda guy. Stage 2 of Dagobah looks similar to Stage 1, although there are some different enemy types that we'll encounter here. Once again, there's a lot of vertical space in this stage, and we're going to take the upper path first. Up here, we're going to find the invisible force power, and once we find it, we'll dip down to the lower level where we'll find the second force power in this stage, which is called ant motion. Invisible is more important than ant motion. Invisible essentially makes you invincible, but it will drain your force power to use it. Ant motion just kind of slows everything down. Once you get up here, we're going to use our elevation power and do a double jump with your lightsaber on, and then fly around until you find the invisible power, and then you're going to drop down through the platforms, and it's down here on this level with the mushrooms that you'll find that ant motion power. So ant motion slows everything down, invisible will make you temporarily invincible, it'll also allow you to run through enemies, which is really good. Down here, we'll be able to cleave through a bunch of enemies by just doing some double jumps, and you can keep your elevation power on. You may want to fly a little bit through here, but don't hold down the up button too much or you'll drain a lot of your force. If it seems like you're draining your force powers too quickly, you may want to hit select and turn off the elevation power. The good news though is that down here on the lower path, there's a lot of hidden force power-ups that you'll find just by jumping and spinning around. So you should be able to maintain a decent amount of force throughout here. And now that we're pretty close to the end, let's try that invisible power out and see what that looks like. So when you put it on, you need to hit X to activate it, and you can see that it's draining our power very quickly, but we were able to go right through some enemies without taking any damage. And once you reach Yoda, that's the end of the stage. In this cutscene, we just see a little collection of famous Yoda quotes, and once you're done reading those, we'll be able to move on to the third and final stage of Dagobah. The good news about this one is, if you missed any of the force powers in the first two stages, you'll be able to find them again here. Make sure that you get all the force powers here if you're interested in them. There are some that you may not need, but I do recommend getting them all just in case. Head straight up to the top using your elevation power. Up here we'll actually find a power that we didn't have yet, the super lightsaber. The super lightsaber will allow Luke to throw his lightsaber and control it in the air, but it's another one that really puts a big drain on your force power, so we're not going to use it very much. Up here in this area with all the mushrooms, you'll be able to find a lot of the icons that you may have missed in the previous stages, so if you missed any, take some time to find them there. And if we head down here to the lower left corner, you'll be able to find a blaster power-up, and if we head over to the right, we're going to find the very last force power, the freeze. The freeze is the C, it's the cold freeze power, and if you want to see what that does, we can use it very quickly. It works pretty well on minor enemies, but doesn't have a lot of value against bosses. So you can freeze up the enemies, uses a decent amount of force, but it's not a bad one. It's not a move that we're going to be using very often, but it's nice to have. Once you're done messing around with the freeze, I recommend putting on your elevation power, and as we head to the right, we're going to reach an auto-scrolling section. As the screen scrolls to the right, it looks like we're riding on the back of Godzilla or something. You can pick up those Rebel Alliance logos, they're just worth points. And if you find any thermal detonators or shields, those can be pretty helpful, but for the most part, you're just going to keep your lightsaber equipped here and just keep doing double jumps so that you have that buzzsaw move going on. When you see some platforms, if you head up to the top, you'll probably need to use the elevation power to do this. You can find all of those force power icons again, so they wanted to make sure that you had a good opportunity to get them. There are also some force powers, so some of the green orbs that you can find up here, so it might be worth your time to head up here. Otherwise, you can just stay along the bottom, and the auto scroll is going to bring you to where the boss is. When you run out of platforms at the top, head back down to the bottom, and keep doing your double jumps with the lightsaber on to take out any enemies that get in your way. You will want to try to take out those electric eels if you can, so that you don't get electrocuted if you dip into the water. For the most part, you're above the water here, but you can go below this platform if you want to go into it. As you head over here to the right, make sure your heal force is equipped and grab 2 force power-ups that are up in the sky, because it's time to fight the boss, Habbo Gad. Habbo Gad is a pretty difficult boss, much harder than the ones that we fought so far. You need to stay away from the mouth in the middle of the boss. That's how you're going to take most of your damage. Otherwise, you want to keep double jumping over the mouth so that your lightsaber hits those 5 panels that surrounds it, and you'll also want to take out the small caterpillars that it throws, which can be dealt with by using that same double jump technique. The plasma gun will deal more damage to the boss than your lightsaber does, but I find it harder to keep from getting damaged while I'm using the plasma gun. It's a lot easier to just keep doing jumpy flips over this boss, trying to avoid that mouth, and just use your heal power whenever you need it. Whenever the boss is tall, so it's completely out of the water, focus on doing a higher double jump, so jump and then press the button later in the air so that you get over the mouth. But whenever it's lower, you're going to just be pressing the jump button twice very quickly so that you're getting the spin going a lot. Right now, our health is kind of low, could be a good time to use some force. So we'll heal up a bit, and whenever you get rid of all 5 panels, I'd say the one in the middle is the hardest one to get rid of, although sometimes you'll end up focusing on one side. So once you get rid of all the panels, that's when you'll be able to actually damage the boss's life meter, and you'll be able to do it by just using the same plan, but you'll be able to hit it all over the boss, so it'll make it a bit easier to hit. Try to time up your jumps so that you're taking out those caterpillars. The caterpillars are the one thing that seems to do me the most damage. Once you know that you need to be avoiding the mouth isn't that hard to stay away from, but you may take some errant damage from the caterpillars. Well, it won't take too much more now. Just a few more lightsaber spins, and Habbo Gad will go down. But stay on your toes, this guy has a ton of health, so it's not going to be easy to beat this one. The developers knew that you had a way to restore your health now, and it seems like they gave us a very difficult boss to compensate for that. Wow, this guy is very hard. Just keep with it. Try to stay with the way the boss moves. Sometimes it feels like it moves very erratically though, and it can be a bit unpredictable. You want to do most of your damage to the boss whenever it's moving slowly. Whenever it starts moving fast, you might be best off just trying to avoid the mouth and focus on getting rid of the caterpillars. So it's moving fast now, but then once it slows down, get a lot of hits in. And once you see it explode, that is the end of Dagobah. But if you think it's going to get easier from here, you are sorely mistaken. The Cloud City levels are some of the most difficult in the game, and the next one is definitely one of the hardest. Now that we got all those force powers for Luke, we won't be able to use them again until the end of the game. So we'll pick up here as Han Solo. Whenever you see those parts of the floor that slide down, you don't want to stand in them for very long because you will get electrocuted and take damage after a while. This is a very big stage. If you thought that those Rebel base stages were long, this one is kind of like 2 of those glued together. So if you need to get a blaster power up, you should keep fighting these grenade throwing droids. After you defeat enough of them, one of them will drop a blaster power up. And there it is. Although this is a very long stage, there are checkpoints, so having extra lives is going to matter in this one. And the good news is, there's a lot of extra lives that we can find in here if you know where to look. There's even a good spot where you can quickly build up to 99 if you want to. On these platforms, they'll slowly move downwards when you stand on them, but when you get to the second of the big platforms, you want to ride it all the way to the bottom because there's a hidden blaster power-up, a big heart, and on the right side there's a shields. Although by the time you get back to the top, you'll probably have worn out most of the shields. If you see those cloud cars shoot up at them, if you're directly below them, the lasers won't be able to get you, and whenever you kill a cloud car, it'll drop a nice big heart for you. The enemies get even more obnoxious over here. Those little blue robots keep spawning over and over again, and you want to avoid getting underneath of those because they'll shoot you with an ion cannon from above. Whenever you see the ion turrets that are attached to the floor, you want to crouch down and shoot them. If you have a lesser gun, you may need to angle up when you're crouching to be able to hit them. Most of the time they'll drop a big heart, so they are worth killing. That's a good way to refill your health. Jump to this platform as it's moving towards you, and then there's a larger robot up here that shoots these star-shaped projectiles. Those will keep spawning as well, so that's very obnoxious. This door sometimes releases a 4-LOM enemy, which is a little guy that looks kind of like a large insect, and he'll shoot a projectile that'll break into 3 parts, so if you see one of those guys, you'll want to remove them right away. 4-LOM is one of the bounty hunters that the Empire hired, and as we play through this stage, we're going to see a lot of enemies that are inspired by those bounty hunters, although we won't be fighting Boba Fett in here. He's going to be a boss later. So make your way over to the right, you'll come to this elevator. You want to keep pushing down so that it moves down quickly. If an enemy comes out and you haven't pushed down yet, you'll have to linger on that floor and take out the enemies there before you'll be able to proceed downward. But if you can press down quickly enough, you can get to the bottom without killing any of the enemies. Over here we'll meet another enemy type. These ones are inspired by the bounty hunter Bosk. And we'll want to shoot at any of those Bosks that you see. If you can kill enough of them, you'll get a blaster power up, but we're actually going to be coming back this way, so we'll farm them for a blaster power up then. Carefully make your way up those platforms, and at this point, you need to go up on that moving platform to move on in this one. But if we head over here, we can take out this guy. His name is Zuckuss. Zuckuss seems to spawn over and over again, but he will drop big hearts for you, and he's pretty easy to kill from that upper ledge. Once you've cleared enough Zuckasses that another one hasn't spawned right away, you'll want to start making your way to the right, then drop down here. This enemy is IG-88, he is a droid bounty hunter. And over here we'll find a whole bunch of hearts, and a blaster power-up. And this brings us back down to that area where the Bosk enemies were, and we'll finish farming them for a minute so you can see that you will get a blaster power up if you kill enough of them. We would try to want to avoid the 4-LOM enemies though, those are just going to get in the way, so we'll head over here, just keep shooting at some Bosks. If you already have a fully powered up blaster, you won't need to do this. And there's going to be some more checkpoints and a lot more going on with this stage, so you might not want to waste your time here and just move forward. There will be plenty of opportunities to power up your blaster later. But now that we have it, we're going to head back onto this platform. Watch out if a 4-LOM pops out of the door. And this platform moves back and forth a few times and then moves upward, so don't be fooled by it. Once you get on this one, you want to quickly jump over to the left, and we're going to take this upward path that we could have taken before, but we did a little detour to get some big hearts and that blaster power up. We're getting very close to a checkpoint. If you ever get very low on health in this stage, you can stay near one of those doors where the 4-LOM spawn, and you can just keep shooting them and collecting the little hearts that they drop, and that's one way you can kind of get back into the game. Over here, we jumped off this ledge and it looks like that would be instant death, but if you head over here to the right, there's a whole cache of good stuff you can find, including 2 1-ups. Then you can ride up on this platform. Now here's the good thing. This is where a checkpoint is, so if you die right here, you'll be able to head right back over to the left and collect all that stuff again, including the 2 1-ups. So if you want to sit here and build yourself up to 99 lives, you can totally do that right there. We went to the left over here, although going to the right was the way that we need to go to finish the stage. There's a lot more good stuff over here if you want to collect it, including a blaster power-up, so if you took the time to build up lives using those 2 1-ups near the checkpoint, you'll probably need to get your blaster powered back up. In this area, there's a bunch of stuff, so there's the blaster, there's a heart, and there's actually a couple extra lives here. So get this Bosk out of the way, and there's another one. grab that extra life. You need to do a double jump to be able to get it, and there's a third extra life. So just keep shooting around here until you don't see any more extra lives. And there's another one. So lots of extra lives here. You can easily build up with the 2 near the checkpoint, but if you just want to keep moving forward, well, there's a few more extra lives down here. You will want to grab that blaster power up so that you'll make sure that you have a good blaster when we get to the boss. There's a few more blaster power ups along the way. We need to make our way back to this platform, which can be tough to jump to. You want to jump when it's moving towards you, and then stay away from the Zuckuss enemies whenever they're spinning. They are invincible while spinning. This next part is very difficult if you don't know what to do. There's going to be some air assault troopers here. You need to keep killing those until they stop spawning. Otherwise, they'll dog you the whole way to the top of this shaft, and it will be very hard to get up here. From here, you want to jump and bump your head off of that platform, so right there, and then do the double jump. That'll get you up here. And then you need to double jump over to this platform and quickly jump off so that you don't get bumped by a 4-lom. And when you jump onto that platform, you need to quickly jump off of it as well. Head over here to the left, and once you've gotten through that part, the rest of this stage isn't too difficult, other than the boss, which there's a very easy way to beat if you know the secret. So we're just going to head over here to the left. There's a whole bunch of good stuff up in this corner, so grab those hearts, and don't miss that blaster power up if you're not fully at plasma yet. And then we're going to ride this platform upwards, which will take us onward. And we want to head over here to the left, roll under that crushing wall, and continue over to the left, where we'll find another platform, and this is going to take us towards the end. Roll under that wall, take out IG-88, grab any items you might drop, and then we'll get onto this platform, which will lead us into the final stretch. Now up here, there's going to be a couple doors that 4-loms come out of. If you duck down and just keep shooting at those 4-loms, you can try to farm for a thermal detonator, and if you run over to the boss and still have a thermal detonator, you can use it and kill the boss in a single hit. It's really that easy. Now, if you don't have a thermal detonator, or if you feel like that's cheating, well, there is a way to beat the boss by using your bombs. You want to hold up when you're throwing the bombs, and remember, bombs are your A button on Han, and you do have a limited number of them. If you're holding up when you throw the bombs, that will help you hit that middle part of the ship, and that's one of the hardest pieces to hit. It's also where the guns are, and the guns are the part of the ship that's going to deal you the most damage. You do want to avoid coming into contact with the panels that you're trying to hit, but you just need to remove all of those panels and that middle part with the guns, and that's the other way you can defeat that boss. But if you're having trouble there, just farm until you get that thermal detonator. It is so easy to beat by just pressing one button. It seems that C-3PO has gone missing, and in Stage 2 of Cloud City, we get to play as Chewbacca. Yeah, we haven't seen him yet. There are no new characters to play as in this game, so Chewbacca, Luke, and Han Solo were all available in the previous Super Star Wars. But Chewbacca has a new move. If you press A, he'll do a spinning attack, and he has a force meter for that, but it recharges very quickly on its own after you use it. One thing you do need to know about the spin attack is if you deplete the meter entirely, you will have to wait for it to recharge to full before you can use it again. There's a hidden heart in the upper left corner there, and anytime you see those round armored droids appear, they're purple, those will follow you around if you don't kill them, so you need to shoot them whenever they open up. Those are really annoying. These turrets in the ceiling are something you can shoot, or you can just hurry through here. On the other side, you'll fight an IG-88, and when you kill the second of the two IG-88s here, or maybe there's actually 3 of them, well, one of them will drop a big heart for you, and the one behind it has a blaster power-up, so that's pretty nice. Keep making your way to the left. This guy twirling a staff is Dengar. Dengar is another one of those bounty hunters. He looks like one that they didn't have enough time to do makeup on. All the other guys were very cool looking. You have Boba Fett with his jetpack, and Bosk that looks like some kind of reptilian monster. Forlom's the little bug guy. IG-88 is like an awesome droid. And then there's Dengar. He looks like a guy that's wearing some kind of towel. They probably asked him, "Do you know how to tie a turban?" And he was like, "No." I'm like, well, figure it out, Dengar. You're in the movie now. Or at least that's how I imagine it went down. Keep heading over here. Head down along the path. This is a pretty big stage, but I don't think it's quite as long as the previous one. After the drop, you just want to head over to the right. When you come to the end of this lava flow, there will be some Ugnaught enemies. They're these little guys that have shields. Any enemies that have shields are very easy to deal with using Chewbacca's spin attack. So whenever you see shields, spin at those guys. We're going to climb up this incline, so just keep heading up to the right. Sometimes you'll be attacked by some Ugnaughts with a shield. We know what to do about them. We're going to use that spin. Up here, there's another one of those grenade-tossing stormtroopers. Now, he's another shielded enemy, but because he's on this tiny platform, it's easier to deal with him using your gun. But normally, if you see those guys on like a flat surface, the spin move would be very good on them there. There's a bunch of guns on the side here that you want to take out before you jump up to this platform. Take out another grenade-throwing stormtrooper, and this time there's a metal bucket that we need to ride across the lava. The lava isn't instant death, but it will deal you quite a bit of damage, so try to stay out of the lava and ride the bucket over here to the left. Climb up this incline. There's a few guns on the side you'll want to remove so that you can easily get up here, and then there's a couple more of those grenade throwing guys, and if you head over to the right side, you'll find a hidden blaster power-up. You'll be happy to have that blaster power-up when we fight the boss, which is coming up soon. There's a heart here in the lava. If you jump towards the heart and do a double jump right as you collect it, you can get it without taking damage. And then there is a large vertical shaft here that we need to climb up on this platform. So just ride the platform, and if you shoot over to the left, there's another hidden big heart over there. Although at this point we have full health, so we don't really need to get it. But there are also some air assault troopers at the top, so watch out for them. And dodge these lasers as you head over to the right where the boss lives. If there are any of these purple armor bots on your screen right now, you need to get rid of those first because they can really mess us up. Once they're clear, take out the 2 gun turrets on the ceiling on the right side. We're going to be hanging out over here on the right, so we want to clear those turrets for safety. Once they're gone, we're mostly going to be hanging out on the far right platform, and you want to shoot at the 3 exhaust ports on the mining crusher. We need to remove all 3 of those exhaust ports, and they can launch some rocks at us, so we want to get rid of them anyway. But we need to clear all 3 of those before we'll be able to damage the boss's life bar. You can see that the boss has a lot of trouble getting us over here on the far right side. The only thing that might hit us is an occasional rock, but even those will usually go overhead or sometimes off to the left. So once you clear all 3 exhaust ports, you're just going to be able to shoot the boss and deplete its health. You can shoot it pretty much anywhere on the boss and that will finish it down. But once this boss explodes, it does have a second form. You'll immediately see another life bar appear. And you just want to get close to this cockpit, keep shooting at it, don't worry too much about sinking into the lava, but you do need to get to C-3PO on the right side before you can clear the stage, so don't just think that depleting the boss's health bar is enough, you need to get to 3PO. There's no cutscenes or anything after we defeat the mining crusher, we just switch right over to Han and it's time for stage 3. You can roll under those big claws, but you'll probably just want to crouch down near them and shoot them with your gun at an angle. If you walk underneath them, they'll grab you and deal a bunch of damage, but they're actually pretty easy to kill and they always drop a whole bunch of hearts, so taking out these claws is a good way to keep your health high. Other than taking out the claws, whenever you see these towers, if you get right underneath the part where the shots are coming from, you can shoot up at it and clear it, and you won't have to worry about getting shot because the lasers shoot out in that X-like pattern. It can be a problem when there's 2 next to each other though. Over here, we'll ride on this platform, and there's these exhaust ports that can freeze you on the side, so you'll want to try to shoot those out as you go down. But don't worry too much about falling off the platform. If you go down into the bottom there, there's usually a safe place where you might even find some power-ups like that big heart. If you remember the ice caves at the beginning of the game, if you fell when you were platforming, a lot of times you'd end up at a bunch of spikes. So it's surprising that here in the later part of the game that you'll fall into a safe area most of the time. There are areas where you can fall to your death, so I'll try to point those out whenever we get near to them, but most of the platforming here is on the safer side. That doesn't mean the enemies are safe though, so just keep clearing them out. As you can see, we just dropped off of that platform, and there wasn't an instant death spike trap below. I'm not saying that you should platform recklessly through this stage, I'm just saying that it's not as bad of an idea as you might think. Keep making your way over here to the right. If you get close to those grenade throwing guys, they'll throw their grenades over your head, but you do want to take out the seeker missile guys as soon as possible. Keep heading over, and here there's some of those armor droids, and you don't want to drop down below here, that is bad. So be careful as you platform across here, but if you do fall, try to hold to the right and you might be able to catch a ledge, and then you can just climb back up to the top. So even if you fall there, it's not the worst. Over here we can find a bunch of power-ups. If you go across this pit, instead of going up, we'll be able to find a heart and a blaster. And I do feel the need to mention that there's 2 hearts hidden over here to the left in this pit, but I don't recommend trying to get these ones unless you really need them, because those armor bots will follow you down there, and you'd rather not deal with too many of them. Once you're ready to go, we're going to ride this platform upwards. And if you shoot while crouching, you should be able to take out a lot of those freezing exhaust ports, but if you do get frozen, all you need to do is tap left and right rapidly and you'll become unfrozen, so it's not that big of a deal. Over here there's another heart, so if you decided not to collect those hearts in the pit, there is one up here that you can collect. Keep that in mind. And we're just going to jump across the top platforms here. There's some lower ones, but they have enemies on them, and you can see you can fall down there and you'll still be safe. But we just want to head across, and if you stay on the top, you will avoid most of the enemies in that area. We'll hop onto this platform and ride it up to the top. It is possible to climb up this shaft simply by jumping from freezing exhaust port to freezing exhaust port, but you might take some damage doing that, and unless you're in a really big hurry, it's a lot better to just take the platform. Over here we can get a big heart, and you should definitely grab that if you've taken any damage, because we're about to get into more of a combat type situation and less of a platforming one over here on the left. There's going to be more of those round ore bots. We saw them earlier in the game when we were playing as Luke, but they're very obnoxious here as Han. Take out those laser turrets, and here they are. These guys will just keep spawning. If you're at a higher elevation than them, you can kind of aim down at them. That's a good way to deal with them. But whenever we played as Luke, we could deflect their shots with his lightsaber. You won't be able to do that as Han. So you just want to hurry through this area as fast as you can, taking out those enemies as they come to you, but mostly just trying to avoid them. There's a nice big claw here that we can use to get some hearts. And yeah, it looks like we kind of needed them. Watch out for the shrapnel, and we even found a shields item, so that's pretty good. We can use that to quickly get across here to the left. But if we double back to the right on these higher platforms, there's a really nice set of items over here. So take out that laser turret first, and you can see that there's a couple 1-ups, a couple big hearts, and a blaster power-up. So you won't want to miss that one. Once you have that stuff, we'll head back over here to the left, and we can ride another platform to the top. We're almost to the boss here, but there's one more platforming sequence that we have to do first, and it's going to be one of those areas where the purple armor bots attack us. So that's kind of annoying. Get ready for that. And here it is. Carefully make your way across the platforms. You may want to use the L button to look downwards occasionally. And watch out for those armor bots. Those things can deal you a ton of damage. Try to take them out before you get to the boss, but you don't want to take them out too soon or they'll just respawn. You want to fight them in that little hallway right there. And here's the boss, the Carbon Freezing Chamber. This is by far one of the easier bosses. You need to get over here into this lower right corner, crouch down, and then start shooting up and to the left. The freezing chamber will hardly ever be able to damage you down here. It can sometimes shoot a little snake of fire out there that can get you, but as long as you remain in a crouching position, almost every attack it does will miss, and you'll be able to easily finish it off. Sadly, destroying the freezing chamber does not prevent Han from getting frozen in carbonite. Yeah, the events of the movie still have to happen the way that they happened. That means that we won't be playing as Han for the remainder of the game, and at this point Boba Fett has him in his clutches, and we're going to make a last-ditch effort with Chewbacca to try to rescue him. That brings us here to Stage 4 of Cloud City, another difficult one. There's a just for fun trick that you can do at the beginning of Stage 4. It can be kinda tough to pull off and you might take some damage trying it, but if you crouch at this distance from a boss enemy and stand up right as he throws his disc projectile at you, you may be able to catch a ride on it, and you'll be able to take it over here to that wall. It's much easier to get past the small section that we skipped the normal way, so I don't really recommend that you go for that trick if you're just trying to beat the game for the first time. But if you're looking for a fun trick, that's a good one to try. Head over here, do some double jumps off these platforms, and make sure to take out the Forlom enemy that's in your way before jumping up there, or he might knock you back and you can fall into a bad spot. If you fall off some of these platforms and don't land on another one, it is instant death below. Take out this ion cannon from below, grab the heart and head across. Watch out for the shrapnel that comes out of those cannons when they explode. And here we have a Zuckuss enemy. This guy's pretty dangerous, especially at that point, and sometimes he'll even come back, although it seemed like he fell off the bottom there. Don't think that Zuckuss is gone. There's a good chance. There he is. There's Zuckuss. See, just because he fell off the bottom doesn't mean that he might not reappear, so be ready for that guy and try to get away from him as quickly as you can, or shoot him from a higher platform until he blows up. Remember, when he's doing the spin move, he's invincible. Over here, there's some Forlom enemies, and if you keep making them respawn by moving back and forth on these platforms, eventually one of them will drop a blaster power-up for you. So if you need to upgrade your blaster, you don't even have to kill that many Forloms to get this one. We're almost to the boss up here. Before we get to the boss, there's going to be a door where Forlom enemies just keep spawning. Well, if you duck down here and then use your spin move when the Forloms appear, you can keep farming them until you get full health, or even better, wait until you have a shields or a thermal detonator, and then just walk a few steps to the right and you'll be able to face Boba Fett with a shields item on. If you do that, you can pretty much stand in one spot and just keep shooting him and he'll go down. Make sure to pick up the big hearts that he drops. If you kill him on the left side, he'll drop more of those, because there's going to be a second boss we have to fight here, his ship, Slave 1. There's 2 cannons on the side of the ship, so you want to take those out quickly, and then whenever the ship swoops towards you, you can use your spin attack on it, which will damage the ship but keep you safe. As long as you get to Slave 1 with full health, it's not that difficult to beat, so make sure to pick up those big hearts that Boba Fett drops. After defeating the boss, we see this meanwhile back on Dagobah scene, but what about everything that just happened? Did we kill Boba Fett? I saw his ship explode. Was frozen Han inside of there? Is he okay? Did we save Han, or did he explode too? I have so many questions, but there's no time for answers. It seems that Luke's friends have gotten into a mess, so he's going to have to leave Yoda, I guess. It's time for another vehicle segment. This is the final vehicle segment in the game, but it's actually one of the easier ones. You can go below the clouds here, but when you're below the clouds, you won't be able to see your health bar, so it's better to spend most of your time above the clouds. To fight these cloud cars, get one in your sights and press L or R to fire a proton torpedo. You have regular guns on this X-Wing, but it'll take multiple shots from those to destroy these cloud cars, while the proton torpedoes will get it done in a single shot. When you're using your torpedoes, you want to alternate using the L and R buttons. If you fire a torpedo with L, you won't be able to fire another one with L right away, but you'll be able to fire one with R shortly afterwards. So if it looks like your first torpedo is going to miss, fire one quickly with the other button. If you press both buttons at the same time, that doesn't seem to work, but pressing one right after the other one is a good way to shoot 2 torpedoes off very quickly. We need to clear 15 cloud cars on this difficulty, and once we do, you don't instantly win. You need to fly towards Cloud City a bit, so make sure that you do that, and also make sure that you're trying to collect a lot of the hearts that drop during this stage. That'll keep your health high. That part seems obvious, but it is worth mentioning. Alright, this is it. Luke and R2-D2 have arrived at Cloud City, unaware of the danger that awaits them. I'm not sure why we're not aware. Didn't we sense it with the Force? Didn't we know there was something going on here? That's why we showed up to Cloud City in the first place. Well, here we go. Cloud City Stage 6 is not actually that tough. The first thing you want to do is press select and then toggle on your elevation power so that you can get up here onto the upper tier. Up here, there are fewer enemies and it seems to be a little bit easier to cross. It's possible to go across using the bottom route, but it's slower and more dangerous, so I recommend coming up here. A lot of red troopers and troopers on bikes. Keep doing your double jump with the lightsaber on, heading forward, and pick up anything like shields or thermal detonators that you see, and try to avoid falling into those holes. If you fall down below, you can use your elevation power to get back up here, but we don't want to use up too much of our force. We're going to have to fight Darth Vader 2 times here in Stage 6, but the good news is, if you have a lot of force power whenever you get to him, he's actually pretty easy. The beginning here is very straightforward, just saber your way through the enemies and make your way across the top tier to the right, but when you get to this part, there's a difficult platforming section here. There's a ton of little platforms to jump from, and a lot of speeder bike troopers that'll try to bump you off. As long as you have your elevation power equipped, if you miss a jump, you can just hold up to fly, and that'll make it a lot simpler. When you get down here, it's time for our first confrontation with Vader. Equip your deflect force power, and then you're going to press X to turn it on. Whenever you have deflect going, you'll automatically deflect any of Vader's lightsaber attacks, although it will make your force power decrease more quickly. Basically, all we need to do is deflect him here and then try to either do double jump spinning attacks or just get behind Vader to damage him. And you should have no problem finishing off if you have that deflect. If you run out of force power, well then you'll start taking damage from him, but hopefully you'll have hit him enough times before that it won't matter. Once you get past the first Vader fight, we'll need to stay down here until we build up enough force power to get back to the upper tier. You'd ideally like to go on the upper tier here, but until we have a little bit of force, we're not going to be able to. However, whenever you kill some of these ion cannons, they usually drop force power-ups, so that'll make it a lot easier. So just make your way across. If you die, you'll come back with full force power, so you can just use your elevation power and make your way to the right that way. But there's going to be another one of those platforming sequences, so we want to make sure that we have a decent amount of force power, and we're going to have to face Vader again, so we'll definitely want to be fully charged whenever we get over there, but there's going to be a bunch of force orbs that we'll be able to find right before the second Vader fight, so don't worry too much about that. If you need to use elevation to fly, use your elevation to fly. We have a solid amount of force now, so we're just going to stay up here on the top tier where it's a little bit easier to cross. There's some like laser cannons down in the lower part which you'll have to dodge. Those are very annoying. Up here we just have the ion cannons, which are pretty easy to defeat by deflecting. You'll just hold down and the Y button to deflect them, but sometimes they push you backwards into areas where enemies are, so you may just want to do a double jump over them and just kind of hurry to the right and avoid them. We're going to continue across here. Remember, you can use the L button to look downwards if you need to see where the platforms are when you're jumping. And we're staying on an upper tier here again, and then there's a few more small platforms over here on the right. There's a few air assault troopers, those guys are pretty annoying, but if you stay down here and cut across to the right, we can find a bunch of big hearts and a bunch of force orbs, which is going to make this next Vader fight a lot easier. We'll float up here using our elevation power, and then switch to the saber deflect, just like we did the last time. I like to slide past Vader as he lights up his lightsaber so I can get a bunch of cheap hits in behind him. Whenever he jumps like that, you'll be able to get in some easy hits whenever he lands, and you can still do your double jump flip moves and try to hit him from behind. Those are all good things you can do. As long as you have your deflection going, Vader will not be able to damage you. If you run out of force, he'll be able to damage you again, but hopefully you'll be able to deal enough damage that you'll be able to get out of this battle no problem. And that's the end of Stage 6, but that is not the end of the game. In the movie, Luke drops down a long vertical shaft like this right after fighting Vader, and in here, if you want to, you can use your elevation power so that you can get more of these coins, but we're so close to the end of the game right now that we really don't need the points that badly. If you want to get a high score though, you could spend some time collecting these things, but you just want to make your way to the bottom. This is a very short stage, but it ends with a very difficult boss. In the movie, after that first confrontation, that was the end for Luke and Vader, but the game answers the question of what would have happened if Darth would have jumped down into that shaft and tried to finish the fight with Luke. We can experiment with some force powers we haven't used much, like mind control here, but for the most part, you just want to keep your elevation on, just keep double jumping and spinning your way to the end of this stage. Good news is, whenever we get to the boss, we're going to get a full refill on our force and our health, so don't worry about depleting your force power, just essentially fly through this one. That's the best way to do it. Keep jumping, keep spinning, hit up whenever you're falling, and you'll just fly your way across to the end. It's not a very long level, but it has a very difficult boss at the end. Another thing that's good is that the boss is a checkpoint, so if we die whenever we're fighting Darth Vader, we'll come right back at Darth Vader. We won't have to repeat this part again. And there's the door. And here it is, the final boss. While the first two encounters with Darth Vader were easy, this battle is extremely difficult. Make sure you have your healing force and your lightsaber equipped, and the first thing you want to do is double jump over Vader, hitting him from behind, and get over here into the right corner. You want to work Vader into the right corner so that whenever he swings his lightsaber at you, it'll be slightly over your head and you'll have a good opportunity to hit him a couple times before you need to hit down to block. If he jumps straight up in the air and then lands, that usually means he's going to do this trash attack. So you want to keep double jumping in the air to clear that trash out, and sometimes they'll even drop force power-ups for you, which is a good way to restore your force if you have to use it to heal yourself. It can be very annoying if Vader just keeps throwing the trash, and that's something that happens occasionally, but this is what you're looking for. You want to keep pushing him into that right side so that you can hit him when he has the high ground. Back when Vader fought with Obi-Wan, he learned that having the high ground was something that's very important, and he thinks that's still true here, but it's not. Having the high ground is actually really bad in this fight. If Vader jumps over you, you want to double jump over him and hit him from behind, and then keep trying to push him back into the right. So that's how you counter that strategy. And if he jumps straight up like that, remember, it's going to be the force trash attack. So get ready to keep doing your double jumps, and if you are already at full force, it might be a good time to use a heal, so if you pick up any force orbs from the trash, they won't go to waste. You do want to be conservative during this fight. Remember that if you hold down and Y, you'll deflect Vader's saber attacks. So just do that whenever it looks like you're going to get hit, and try to get a feel for the rhythm. You'll be able to get a few swings in when he's above you, but as he drifts down, then you'll have to switch to holding down and Y to block. Try to make sure that you're good at taking out this trash as well. You'll want to get used to that. This is your best opportunity to get those force power-ups. Eventually, Vader is going to move to an attack pattern where he throws the trash at you, but still attacks with the lightsaber. That's the last thing that he does, and it's very difficult when it gets to that point. You see right now, he can't be damaged, he's just throwing the trash, so we can take our time and try to clear as much of it as we can to get the force power-ups. But if he was also attacking us with the lightsaber, we would need to be doing double jumps and keeping up our aggression against the boss so that we can actually beat him. That part is tough. We're not quite that far yet, so keep him over in the right corner as much as you can. He's going to do the force trash attack again. If he does this attack a lot, it can take a long time to kill the boss because he is totally invulnerable whenever he's doing it, but if you're good at fighting off those trash pieces, it can be a great opportunity to keep your health high. So this is something that you'll want to master. Make sure that you're good at clearing out this trash. The last thing that you want is to take a bunch of damage during the trash attack instead of gaining back health with your force. Oh, now he's got us over on the left side. That's not the best. We need to work him back to the right. Okay, now he's back in the spot. And since he jumped straight up in the air, that lets us know it was going to be the force trash attack again. So it's very obvious what Vader's going to do if you learn to recognize what his moves look like. When he starts twirling that lightsaber, you know exactly where that's going, and here it is. Here's the combined attack where the trash is going and he's attacking us with the saber, so you need to keep up the pressure now. If you have enough force, you could consider switching over to invisible and just going nuts on Vader at this point with your saber, but it's actually tough to switch force powers on the fly. Sometimes you can get messed up doing that. It may be better to just keep attacking him with the double jumps, heal constantly because you will be picking up more force power-ups, and if he stops like this, well, this is helpful. I'm glad that he stopped for a moment so that we can just restore our force, but he's going to go back to the normal attack here in a moment. Here it is. Just 2 more balls of health. Keep up the pressure on Vader when he gets to this final part, and make sure that you heal yourself anytime you see yourself dip below about 1/3 health. And if you do that, well, you'll have a good chance at beating Darth Vader. It might take a little bit of luck, and it's much easier on the easy difficulty, but with that strategy, you can prevail. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten Super Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Congratulations, young Jedi. You have beaten the evil Imperial Lord Darth Vader, master of the dark side. Yeah, this was a tough game, and this is pretty much all of the ending. Shortly after this, the scene will fade out, and we'll hit the credits. But we're not going to go to the credits just yet. If you remember back at the top of the video, I mentioned that this game has a ton of cheat codes, so before we finish up, we're going to review all of them. This first cheat code is the easiest one to perform. Whenever you see the Start Game box appear, just press the Y button 4 times. Of course, it doesn't have a very profound effect. All it does is this. Whenever you see the opening movie here, you can hold the L and R buttons to spin it around. Yeah, L moves it counterclockwise and R moves it clockwise. Pretty neat. That's not the only thing it does one other thing. Whenever this Star Destroyer flies in, well, you can do this. Whoa, who's flying this thing? Alright, here's a more useful cheat code. As soon as that Start Game box appears, this time we're going to press XBBYXAAX. You know it works whenever you hear that impressive sound effect. What does this one do? Well, it gives you all of the force powers at the very beginning of the game. So you can try out some of the ones we didn't really use much, like the Force Saber, or maybe you want to use mind control on a Wampa so that it walks into a spike pit. Hey, that's pretty cool. Another code we can try, XYABXX. This one will give us 7 continues instead of the normal 3. Of course, if you just use the password system, the continues aren't really that important, except when you're in those vehicle segments. If you press XYBBBXAYYBAXY on this opening screen, this time you'll get 99 lives. Which seems cool, except that if you watch the rest of the video, you know that it's not that difficult to get 99 lives in this game. Well, if you do AXBXXAY, that's a pretty neat code. It'll make sure that you always have a thermal detonator available. So you can just keep pressing the X button as much as you want to level enemies. YAYABXBXBX enables the level skip code, and to do this one you need a second controller. On controller 2 you just press start, and that will end any stage that you're on instantaneously. If you want to skip the entire game, you can press AXBAYXBAAXBBYX, and as soon as you hit that code in, you'll immediately be teleported to the final battle. It doesn't make a noise or anything, you just go right to Vader. If you haven't played the rest of the game, fighting the final boss is gonna be pretty tough. This guy is hard if you had a lot of practice. And here's a very powerful code. ABYX, ABYX, ABABYXX, YABYX. This enables the debug mode. This code gives you all the benefits of the stage skip code, so you can press start to end a stage at any time on controller 2. You can also use as many thermal detonators as you want, but it does something else in addition to that. If you press L and R at the same time on controller 2, it'll bring up the debug menu, and from the debug menu you can choose whichever stage you want to play on. You can even choose checkpoints within that stage. You can set how many lives you have, you can raise your health, and you can make yourself have the best blaster. So just whatever you want. Pretty neat. If you'd like to practice a certain stage in the game, this is a great way to be able to do it. One last code before we go. If you press AB, 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 AB on that start game screen, that will take you directly to the credits of the game. So you'll be able to see who made the game, but you won't be able to see the final ending. So if you want to see that, well, you just have to fight Darth Vader, although you can make it a lot easier on yourself with that infinite thermal detonator code, or by just pressing start on controller 2, or maybe by setting your health really high using the debug mode. Whatever you want to do. If you can't beat Vader, well, there's plenty of cheats that can get you to the end. The credits that you see whenever you use the code are a little bit different than the credits that you see whenever you finish the game normally, so I did cut in the regular credit sequence so that you can see that. At the very end, it gives you a little message based on what difficulty you finished on, and it also allows you to see your final score. You wouldn't see any of that stuff if you just put the code in at the very beginning of the game. As these credits come to a close, it's crazy to think that when I covered the first Super Star Wars game, that was over 80 episodes ago, back in episode number 6. And when I covered Super Star Wars, I had less than 100 subscribers to the channel, and after the first few days, I think the video only had maybe 20 views on it, and at least 4 or 5 of those were me. So it was very disappointing, and I didn't end up covering any more Super Nintendo games because of that until ActRaiser, which I covered this year. So it took a long time, but we finally got back here to Super Star Wars. So for everybody that's been waiting for this one, I'm sorry it took so long. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat Super Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. and let Darth Vader know who really is the best Skywalker. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Because as long as Disney controls the license, we know that the Star Wars will never end. And that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.